We're ready to start working the fingers of the gloves, and even though these are fingerless, there is a separate spot for each finger in these. In fact, if you were to continue working them after you pick up these stitches, you could actually make a pair of gloves with fingers. But we're stopping here. Actually, a lot of fingerless gloves do stop at the knuckle. I stopped really low on these. So let me show you how to start knitting the fingers, and to give you a perspective of what I have here, because there's so much going on here right now. These are the stitches reserved for the thumb, and I've taken the 8 stitches that I had on scrap yarn for the pinky and put them onto 3 double-pointed needles. Now I need to reattach the yarn, and I am going to reattach the yarn here between the pinky and the ring finger. It doesn't matter where you do, just remember where you do so you know where the beginning of your round is. I am going to maintain the 2x2 rib on all of these fingers as well as I can. And so I'm going to start working with a purl stitch here to maintain the 2x2 rib, and the next one's a knit. And I'm going to knit the, oops, we go right into a purl here. And the last ones here are knit 2, purl 1. Okay, now what I always do when I get back up to the beginning of my round, because I don't have a problem with tying knots ever, I think it's a good idea, I'm going to tie the working yarn to the tail end in a nice little knot. And trust me, you'll have so many ends to weave in here. If you don't have to worry about anything unraveling, it's going to be a blessing. Okay, so my next round, starting with the purl stitch again, and knit. And things are floppy and fiddly here. Don't let anything get twisted. Okay. All right, we just finished 2 rounds of that. And that's all you have to do. For the way that I have this pattern written, it only calls for 2 rounds. Now the last thing we have to do on the finger is to bind off in pattern. And what that means is this. Instead of just doing knit 2, pull 1 over to bind off, knit another one, pull 1 over to bind off, we're going to follow the stitches that we see. Remember, I start with a purl 1, then a knit 1. So I'm going to pull that stitch over. I can ditch that needle. Then I have a knit following the knit, pull it over, a purl, pull it over. It's not very many stitches, it goes pretty quickly here. All right, all of our stitches are bound off in pattern. And the reason that I like to bind things off in pattern is it's going to be tough to see on here, but if you bind things off just with plain knitting, you end up with a really even chain, which to me looks kind of funny when the rest of everything is in 2x2 rib. This breaks up the look of the chain a little bit. It doesn't exactly follow the 2x2 ribbing, but it just looks better. So we're going to break the yarn and pull it through the last loop. And all the other fingers are worked the same, but there's one little thing I need to show you on them. So for the ring finger, we have 10 stitches total. Okay, I'm slipping these onto my double-pointed needles. And I can pull out the scrap yarn now. And And since there are 10, and I'm going to pick up, let me double check this. There are 10 stitches, one space, okay, one stitch between the pinky and the ring finger. Okay. I am going to again start working at the space between the middle finger and the ring finger. That's where I'm going to attach the yarn. So here we go. And I'm going to separate. I was going to put this on double pointed needles, but I'm going to wait until I get some things on here first. Now, I worked across the first needle, and now I'm at the space between the ring finger and the pinky. And the instructions tell us that we have to pick up one extra stitch right here to kind of close up this gap, and I want to show you how to do that. Okay, here are the pinky stitches we just worked. Put my finger in there. And here's the gap between the pinky and the ring finger. It's kind of stretched out right now. I am going to just put my needle through a couple of those strands right there and pull it through. And it doesn't look like much now, but I promise this will all even out and tighten up. And then I'm going to continue with the ribbing, and remembering that I want to get this all onto 3 needles now. Okay, that was my whole round. And remember I said whenever I finish my first round, I always tie my working yarn to the tail, so I have to worry about one less thing unraveling. Okay. And that is what the pattern is going to be for the rest of the fingers. You're going to want to knit one more round for the ring finger and then bind off in pattern. And the middle finger and the first finger are worked the same way. And after you bind all those off, then it's time to go back and pick up stitches for the thumb, which is what we're going to cover in the next video.